everyone, my name is Cheryl Robinson and welcome to the Lancaster Branch Library located in the quiet community of Lancaster in South Manchester. Today is International Literacy Day under the theme Teaching and Learning in the COVID-19 Crisis and Beyond. Today I'll be sharing two stories with you. Hope you enjoy. One blustering night, Piglet was trying very hard to get to sleep. The night was full of very big noises and Piglet was a very small animal. Suddenly, a sharp tapping at his window frightened him. Who's there?" he called. Tap, tap. Piglet dove under the covers. The next morning, Piglet went to see Winnie the Pooh. "Did you tap at my window last night, Pooh?" he asked his friend. "No, Piglet," Pooh replied. "I was asleep." "You don't suppose it was a monster, do you?" Piglet said unhappily. Piglet asked all his friends in the 100-acre wood if they had seen any monsters the night before, but none of them had noticed anything out of the ordinary. Pooh and Piglet went to ask Owl, who lived up in a treehouse. Owl would surely have noticed if something as scary as a monster had been about last night. But Owl hadn't seen anything either. Poor Piglet. He knew he wouldn't get any more sleep as long as there was a monster running around in the night. So, that night, Pooh stood guard at Piglet's window so his friend could get to sleep. But as soon as Piglet closed his eyes, a sharp tapping sounded at his window. "It's the monster!" Piglet yelled. Pulling the curtain open, Pooh chuckled. "There's your monster, Piglet," he said. "It's only a branch blowing against the window." Piglet was ashamed. "You mean there's no monster in the 100-acre wood?" he asked. "No, Piglet," Pooh answered. Piglet was relieved, and as Pooh left, he snuggled down in his bed. Now, even a very small animal could sleep in peace. The book that I'll be reading today is entitled Mystery of the Lost Ring with Two Hearts, and it is written by Robin Soprano. Heather and Florence are best friends. They dress alike, they walk alike, they smile alike, they talk alike. They both get A in math and science. They both get C in sewing and history. One day, Florence said, "I wish our names were more alike." "So do I," said Heather. So, right on the spot, Florence changed her name. She changed it to Feather. She changed it for 3 reasons. First of all, it sounded like Heather. Second of all, her hair was short and curly like feathers. And third of all, she didn't like the name Florence in the first place. So, here they are, Heather Martin and Florence McGee. Heather and Feather, friends to the end. One day, Heather went to the dentist. Feather had nothing to do. When Heather was there, they always did something, even when there was nothing to do. Feather thought, "I will make a surprise for Heather. I will make something special to show we are best friends." She thought and thought. Then she had a wonderful idea. First, she found a spool of wire. Then she found a wire cutter. Snip, clip, bend, twist. A little more here, a little less there. At last, the surprise was done. When Heather returned from the dentist, Feather was waiting for her. "Did it hurt?" she said. "A little," said Heather. Feather held the surprise behind her back. "I have something that will make it better," she said. "It is something special. I made it myself and it is for you." She gave the surprise to Heather. "A ring!" cried Heather. "With 2 hearts," said Feather. "One for you and one for me. It shows we are best friends." "It's beautiful," said Heather. "It was very hard to make," said Feather. "It's the most beautiful ring in the whole world," said Heather. "I will wear it forever." The next day, Heather and Feather went to school. Your new ring looks very nice, said Feather. I know, said Heather. It was a surprise from my best friend. It must be wonderful to get a surprise from your best friend, said Feather. It is, said Heather. That is why I am making a surprise for my best friend. Who in the world can that be? Asked Feather. You, of course, said Heather. Who else? After school, Feather waited for Heather at their usual place. She waited and waited. What can be keeping her? Thought Feather. She waited some more. Just when she was about to give up, she saw Heather. Where were you? Asked Feather. Heather did not answer. Her eyes looked red and puffy. She had been crying. What happened? Asked Feather. Heather held out her hand. The friendship ring was gone. It disappeared, said Heather. It vanished into thin air. Don't be silly, said Feather. Rings do not vanish into thin air. Sometimes they do, said Heather. Mine did. You probably hate me now. How can you say that? You're my best friend. After all, it was only a ring. With 2 hearts, cried Heather. One for you and one for me. And don't forget, said Feather, it was very hard to make. It took me 1 whole day. Oh, cried Heather. Don't cry, said Feather. Think, did you take the ring off your finger? Not once, said Heather. Not even when Mary Alice wanted to try it on. What about Shirley? Asked Feather. Did you let Shirley try it on? Shirley didn't want to try it on. It wouldn't fit Shirley's finger anyways, said Feather. Come with me. We'll ask Mr. Sprinkle. Maybe he has your ring. Mr. Sprinkle worked in the lost and found at school. No, he said, shaking his head. No one turned in a ring today. How about a pen? I have lots of pens. Red pens, blue pens, old pens, new pens. Are you sure you didn't lose a pen? Very sure, said Heather. I lost a ring. It was very pretty with 2 hearts in the middle. I made it myself, said Feather. It was very hard to make. It took me 1 whole day. I'm sorry, said Mr. Sprinkle. How about some mittens? Orange, yellow, pink, white. Here's a pair with funny clowns. Maybe you lost some mittens. No, said Heather. It was a friendship ring. Boots, cried Mr. Sprinkle. A nice lunch. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich with only 2 bites missing. No, said Heather. No, said Feather. A sweater? yelled Mr. Sprinkle. Think about it. Maybe you lost a sweater. Heather and Feather went out and closed the door. In the hall, they could still hear Mr. Sprinkle yelling, Here's a hat. It's just your size. Let's ask the janitor, said Feather. Maybe she found your ring. The janitor shook her head. No, she said. No ring. I found a tooth today. Can you use a tooth? This is very important, said Feather. It was a very valuable ring with 2 perfect hearts in the middle. I made it myself. It took her all day, said Heather, who was about to cry. Don't cry, said the janitor. It was only a ring. It was very hard to make, said Feather. Heather burst into tears. I have an idea, said the janitor. Why don't you look through the trash? Maybe I swept it up by mistake. Heather and Feather emptied all the trash cans. They found chewed up bubble gum. They found candy wrappers and lollipop sticks. They found melted ice cream and a lot of crumpled paper. They did not find Heather's ring. Think, said Feather. Where were you today? In the lunchroom, said Heather. Where else? Asked Feather. The art room and the gym and the homeroom. Think harder, said Feather. Were you anyplace else? The bathroom, answered Heather. That's it, cried Feather. The ring slipped off your finger when you washed your hands. It didn't, said Heather. Why not? Asked Feather. I didn't wash my hands, said Heather. Well, said Feather, we will look every place else. You take homeroom and the lunchroom. I'll take the art room and the gym. No, said Heather. I'll take the art room. I am making a surprise for you, and I don't want you to see it. A surprise? Said Feather. For me? What is it? I said it was a surprise, said the janitor. The school will be closing soon. Heather looks in the coat closet. Feather looks behind the lunch counter. Heather looks in the art room. Feather looks in the locker room. They came back empty-handed. The school is closed, said the janitor. You have to go home now. It's no use, said Heather. My ring is gone. It vanished into the clear blue sky. I can't believe it, said Feather. Believe it, said Heather. My ring disappeared. The next day after school, Feather waited for Heather again. She waited and waited. This is getting to be a habit, thought Feather. Just when she was about to give up, Heather came running down the block. Look what I have, she shouted. Look, where you're going, Feather shouted. But it was too late. Blam! Heather ran, smack, right into Mary Alice. What do you have? Asked Feather. That, said Heather. She pointed to the ground. What is it? Asked Feather. It was your surprise, said Heather. What was it? Asked Feather. It was a statue of two friends, you and me, said Heather. It was very hard to make. She began to cry. Feather picked up the pieces. She looked at the broken statue. I love it, she said. It's the most wonderful surprise in the whole world. Maybe I can fix it, said Heather. But Feather didn't hear her. She was jumping up and down. Look, she cried. Do you see what I see? My ring, cried Heather. It slipped on my finger and got lost in the clay. If I didn't drop the statue, I never would have found it. It got a little bent, said Feather. It doesn't matter, said Heather. The important thing is that you made it for me. True, said Feather. How very true. Let's go home, said Heather. Yes, let's, said Feather. So there they go, Heather Martin and Florence McGee. Heather and Feather, friends to the end.